The quiet hum of your meticulously ordered world greets the dawn. You observe the first slivers of morning light, a pale, almost clinical gold, as they creep across the polished mahogany of your breakfast table. Each object, a ceramic mug, a silver spoon, a linen napkin, rests in its precise, accustomed place, a testament to a life curated with rigorous intent. Your fingers, slender and still agile despite their years, trace the cool curve of the teacup. The steam, a fleeting wisp of white, rises in a perfectly vertical column before dissipating into the still air of your kitchen. You analyze the faint aroma of the Darjeeling. Not merely tea, but a complex bouquet of malty undertones and a distant whisper of muscatel, a signature of the second flush. You note the subtle variations in its hue, a deep amber, almost a russet, indicating a brew time of precisely 3 minutes and 27 seconds, not a second more or less, for optimal flavor extraction. This quiet ritual, this communion with exactitude, has been your anchor since the ledgers and balance sheets of the world ceased to demand your unwavering focus. Beyond the pristine glass of your window, the city awakens, a distant, murmuring beast. You rarely engage with its clamor now. Your days are a measured cadence of classical music, rare book collecting, and the occasional satisfying challenge of a complex jigsaw puzzle. Its 1,000 pieces yielding only to a patient, methodical mind. This solitude, once a consequence of your profession's demands, has become a chosen sanctuary. Yet, a faint shadow often crosses the threshold of your peace. It manifests in the subtle dust motes dancing in the sunbeams, illuminating the absence of a shared existence. It flickers in the silence that stretches between the tick of the grandfather clock and the rustle of a turning page. And sometimes, it takes the form of a framed photograph on your study desk, face down for years, depicting a younger version of yourself, standing awkwardly beside a beaming, ambitious young man. Leo, your son. A chasm had grown between your world of precise figures and his boundless, perhaps reckless aspirations. He had sought the dizzying heights of the tech world, while you found solace in the immutable truths of numbers. The shrill, insistent trill of the telephone shatters the morning's delicate equilibrium. It is an alien sound in your quiet home, a jarring intrusion. You pause, your hand hovering over the teacup, your gaze fixed on the antique device. It's a number you don't recognize, a string of digits that pulses with an unsettling urgency on the caller ID. Reluctance warps the air around you, a desire to let the moment pass, to preserve the sanctity of your morning. But something in the relentless ring, an almost desperate cadence compels you. You lift the receiver. Vance, you state, your voice steady, betraying none of the internal tremor. A breathy, harried voice spills into your ear, overlaid with a faint, chaotic murmur of other voices, a distant clatter. Arthur Vance, thank God you picked up. This is the Chief Operations Officer at NovaSpark. We're in the penthouse boardroom during an emergency call, and it's bad. Your grip tightens on the receiver, knuckles blanching. Implicated, the voice stammers, the background noise swelling, a sharp, authoritative voice cutting through the din before being hushed. Multi-million-dollar embezzlement. From NovaSpark. They're saying he's framed, but the evidence, it looks damning. The authorities are here. He's been taken in for questioning. The words hit you like a physical blow, each syllable a chisel against the quiet facade of your life. Embezzlement. Leo. Framed. You can almost see the polished mahogany table of the penthouse boardroom littered with documents, the faces of executives etched with fear and accusation. You close your eyes for a brief moment, letting the implications settle, then open them, your gaze now sharp, no longer observing the dust motes but seeing through them, beyond them. The quiet order of your home suddenly feels flimsy, a brittle shield against the storm that has just erupted. Your son, Leo, caught in a web of deceit and accusation. The thought ignites a dormant fire within you, a spark that had long been banked under the ashes of retirement. "Tell me everything," you command, your voice now devoid of hesitation, infused with a steely resolve that surprises even yourself. As the details unfurl, your mind, long accustomed to dissecting financial labyrinth, begins to construct its own mental ledger, each piece of information a potential entry. The numbers, the dates, the amounts, they begin to swirl, forming a nascent, intricate pattern. The carefully aligned objects on your table seem to mock the sudden disarray of your world. The precision of your life has been shattered, but in its place, a different kind of precision begins to emerge. The meticulous, relentless determination of a father forced to confront a truth far more complex than a simple balance sheet. You are Arthur Vance, and your son needs you. Each word was a shard, catching the pale, late-afternoon light that filtered through the window, illuminating dust motes suspended in the air. "Arrested this morning, Arthur. The authorities moved swiftly. A warrant for embezzlement, multi-million-dollar scale." Your hand tightened around the antique receiver, knuckles white as bone. The world, previously a tapestry of predictable patterns and precise calculations, now shimmered, distorted. Embezzlement. Leo. It was a cruel jest, a nonsensical arrangement of syllables. Your son, a mind built for innovation, for the elegant architecture of code, not the grubby mechanics of theft. Preposterous. You heard your own voice, a low rumble, unfamiliar in its vehemence. He's a rising star, a visionary. Arthur, the evidence, it's overwhelming. Digital trails, transaction logs, shell companies traced to his name. It points directly to him. We've had forensic auditors in since last night. They're calling it the most sophisticated fraud they've ever seen. A cold wave washed over you, not of fear, but of an icy, analytical dread. Your retirement, a carefully constructed fortress of solitude and intellectual pursuits, now seemed to crumble at the edges. You felt the faint, ghost-like pull of an old addiction, the intricate dance of numbers, the pursuit of truth hidden within ledgers. The room, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, its walls closing in. You moved with a purpose born of disbelief and a nascent, fierce determination. Your mind, a finely tuned instrument, began to hum, sifting through the sparse details, searching for the discordant note, the logical flaw. The journey to the detention facility's visitor room was a blur of urban landscape, a montage of blurred windows and the rhythmic thrum of the engine. Each passing street sign seemed to mock your past complacency. The air inside the facility was stale, thick with the scent of disinfectant and unspoken anxieties. A uniformed officer, impassive and unyielding, directed you through a maze of sterile corridors. When you finally saw your son, the sight struck you with the force of a physical blow. His usually immaculate hair was disheveled, his designer shirt wrinkled, a stark contrast to the polished image you carried in your mind. He looked diminished, like a flame struggling against a gale. He managed a weak, lopsided smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Leo, what is this? Tell me, what happened?" He shook his head slowly, a gesture of profound weariness. "I don't know, Father. I swear to you I don't. One moment, I'm finalizing the new platform's integration. The next, they're reading me my rights. They say I siphoned off $30 million. $30 million. His voice cracked on the last words, a fragile thing threatening to break. "I would never." His denial was vehement, almost desperate, a raw wound laid bare. You believed him, instinctively, with a certainty that bypassed logic. But your belief, however strong, was not evidence. Your training, your life's work, demanded proof. "They showed me the files," he continued, his gaze drifting, unfocused. Bank statements, IP addresses, encrypted messages, all pointing to accounts in the Caymans, in Panama. They even showed me my own digital signature on a series of transfers. His eyes snapped back to yours, wide with a terrifying confusion. My signature, Father, but I never signed them. I never even saw those transactions. A knot tightened in your gut. Your son's distress was genuine, his bewilderment profound, his own digital signature. The overwhelming evidence. You leaned closer to the glass, your voice dropping to a low, intense murmur. Leo, think. Anything. Anyone. Did you ever give anyone access to your credentials? Your private keys? Did anyone else use your computer, your devices? He furrowed his brow, trying to dredge memories from the swirling chaos of his recent hours. No, never. I'm meticulous with my security, you know that. Especially with the Novatech platform. It's my baby. He paused, a flicker of something new, a dawning horror crossing his features. Unless someone else gained access. But how? Our systems are ironclad. His inability to explain the overwhelming digital evidence against him was a chasm opening at your feet. His vehement denials, while comforting, were insufficient. The pieces didn't fit, not yet. This wasn't a simple case of mistaken identity or a clumsy frame-up. This was something far more intricate, a tapestry woven with threads of deception and technical prowess. And in that moment, gazing at his haunted face through the cold glass, you knew your quiet retirement was irrevocably over. The game had found you again. The hum of the building's upper echelons vibrated through the polished floor beneath your feet, a constant low thrum against the silence of your own brewing storm. The air, thick with the ghosts of high-stakes decisions, tasted of polished ambition and stale coffee. Each glint from the chrome fixtures seemed to mock the dull ache settling in your chest, a relentless pressure that had taken root the moment Leo's name was uttered in connection with the missing millions. His denials, fervent and raw, echoed in the silent chambers of your memory, a fragile shield against the overwhelming digital tide. You had promised him, a silent vow etched in the desperate grip of his hand, that you would look. And looking, for you, meant seeing beyond the surface, dismantling the elegant lies. Your first move was a quiet retreat to the familiar solace of your home office, a space cluttered with decades of financial histories, each ledger and file a testament to order found amidst chaos. The initial reports, disseminated by Novatech's internal security, were laid out across your mahogany desk. You moved with a practiced grace, a phantom limb reawakening. The digits swam before your eyes, a coded language you had once mastered, now demanding a fresh translation. The digital footprints were pristine, too pristine. Every transaction, every login, every authorization bore Leo's unmistakable digital signature, a trail leading directly from his workstation, through a labyrinth of shell companies, and into offshore accounts. It was a masterpiece of misdirection, yet devoid of the usual fumbling, the telltale hesitancy, the minute errors that betrayed a human hand at the controls of deceit. This wasn't the work of a panicked amateur. It was the cold, calculated precision of a professional. And that, in itself, was the first discordant note in an otherwise flawless symphony of guilt. You picked up the phone, the old rotary dial feeling solid and reassuring in your hand. "Arthur," the voice rasped, a ghost from your past. "Thought you'd hung up your abacus for good." "Some things," you replied, your voice a low rumble, "pull you back." You outlined the bare bones, the digital evidence, the missing funds, Leo's name. You asked for a deep dive, an unconventional look, a search for the invisible ink between the lines. The colleague promised discretion, a silent nod to the unwritten rules of their shared world, a world where the truth often hid in the smallest, most overlooked anomalies. Your next encounter was a forced one, a summons to Novatech's gleaming headquarters. The CEO, Evelyn Reed, met you in a minimalist conference room, all glass and polished chrome, a stark contrast to your own warm, cluttered sanctuary. He was a valuable asset here. He is, you corrected gently, your gaze steady, refusing to waver under her intense scrutiny. And I believe he's innocent. She gestured vaguely at a stack of documents, a mirror of the ones on your desk. The evidence, I'm afraid, is quite damning. Our internal investigation was thorough. Every digital breadcrumb leads back to him. It's an unfortunate, messy business, but Novatech has a reputation to uphold. We need to move past this quickly. Her words, though outwardly sympathetic, carried an undercurrent of impatience, a desire to sweep the inconvenient truth under a very expensive rug. She offered full cooperation, access to records, but the offer felt more like a formality, a polite dismissal. Her focus was on damage control, not truth. Perhaps, she suggested, it would be best to let the authorities handle it. They are quite capable. The unspoken message was clear. Stay out of the way. Later that afternoon, a meeting with Leo's appointed legal team confirmed your growing unease. The lead counsel, a sharp-suited woman with weary eyes, laid out the grim reality. Arthur, she stated, her tone devoid of emotion. The prosecution's case is ironclad. The digital trail is flawless. We've exhausted every avenue to discredit it. They have him dead to rights. Your gaze drifted to the framed law degrees on her wall, symbols of a system designed for justice, yet often swayed by the weight of evidence, however crafted. You believe he did it? You asked, the question a quiet challenge. She sighed, running a hand through her impeccably styled hair. Belief is a luxury we can't afford right now. The facts, as they stand, point to one conclusion. We're advising him to consider a plea deal. It's the only way to mitigate the damage, to avoid a lengthy sentence. A plea deal. The words hung in the air, heavy as lead. They saw only the perfection of the frame, not the invisible hands that had constructed it. They saw the overwhelming digital evidence, a chasm opening at your feet, and they sought the shortest path around it, even if it meant sacrificing the truth. But you, Arthur Vance, had spent a lifetime dissecting imperfections, unearthing the hidden flaws in seemingly flawless narratives. The very perfection of the evidence against Leo was the most glaring flaw of all. This wasn't just a corporate fraud. It was a meticulously woven tapestry of deceit, and you were determined to unravel every single thread. The pieces didn't fit, not yet, but the hunt for the missing ones, for the true architects of this intricate lie, had only just begun. The hushed, urgent voices of the legal counsel and a handful of senior executives on the conference line formed a distant, disembodied chorus, a lament for lost trust and impending ruin. Each clipped word, each measured sigh, was another brick in the wall closing around your son, Leo. The phrase, plea deal, echoed in the silent chambers of your mind, a cold, persistent whisper that fueled your relentless dissection of Novatech's digital arteries. Your fingers, nimble despite the tremor in your resolve, danced across the keyboard, calling forth spreadsheets, ledgers, and transaction histories. You burrowed deeper, past the surface sheen of the prosecution's carefully constructed narrative. They saw only the flawless weave of Leo's digital fingerprints, the damning trail of commands executed from his credentials. The initial sweep confirmed the obvious. A cascade of payments diverted, accounts siphoned, all linked to shell companies with names like phantom ships. The sheer volume was staggering, a digital tsunami designed to drown. Yet, beneath the clamor of the obvious, a discordant note began to hum. You focused on the vendor payments, specifically those flagged as critical infrastructure upgrades, a broad, convenient category. You cross-referenced these payments with project timelines. Novatech's public roadmap showed no such extensive upgrades scheduled for the period these transactions occurred. Then you noticed the approval chain for these particular outlays. The inconsistencies multiplied. Quarterly budget reports, usually a model of predictable growth for a company of Novatech's stature, showed an inexplicable surge in miscellaneous operational expenses in the preceding 2 quarters, coinciding precisely with the establishment of Horizon Dynamics and 2 other equally obscure vendor entities. These spikes didn't correlate with any reported expansion, new product launches, or even unexpected market shifts. They were an artificial bulge, a digital tumor. This was not the work of a single desperate man clumsily diverting funds. The sheer scale, the intricate layering of shell companies, the strategic timing of the payments, the careful circumvention of standard protocols, all pointed to a systemic, meticulously planned operation. Your gaze drifted to the internal communications logs, filtering for mentions of Horizon Dynamics or the other phantom vendors. Each message was crafted with an almost poetic vagueness, enough to push through the system, but too little to truly scrutinize. A new face began to emerge from the digital fog, another potential architect of this elaborate deception. Her involvement was more subtle, less direct than the chief operations officers, but no less significant. Her recommendations, dressed in the language of innovation and market penetration, seemed to lay the groundwork for the very transactions that now implicated Leo. Your focus narrowed, laser sharp. You had found the first threads of their intricate design, and the revelation tightened the knot of determination in your chest. This was no longer just about clearing Leo's name. It was about exposing a ruthless syndicate, a beast far larger and more dangerous than a simple corporate thief. Your world had shrunk to the glowing pixels, a digital tapestry woven with numbers and names, each thread a potential betrayal. You leaned closer, the scent of expensive coffee and stale ambition clinging to the air. Your fingers, gnarled but still nimble, danced across the trackpad, scrolling through columns of audited financials, transaction logs, and internal memos. This was too neat, too conveniently damning. You cross-referenced it, searching the company database. No direct registration in this country. A ghost in the machine, it seemed. Your brow furrowed, a silent storm brewing behind your eyes. You traced the digital breadcrumbs, following the financial stream. Viridian Solutions, you discovered, was domiciled in a distant, sun-drenched island nation, a place known more for its pristine beaches than its transparent financial regulations. The payments from the tech startup were substantial, recurring, and lacked the detailed invoicing usually required for such large sums. A red flag, stark and flapping in the digital wind. Digging deeper, a name surfaced from the depths of the offshore registry. Onyx Holdings, Inc. It was listed as the sole director of Viridian Solutions. Another shell, another layer of obfuscation. You felt the familiar thrill of the chase, the cold certainty that you were peeling back the skin of a carefully constructed lie. The pattern was emerging, clear as a mountain spring, yet murky in its intent. Funds moved from the startup to Viridian, then from Viridian to Onyx, and from Onyx they fractured, scattering into a dozen other entities, each with equally vague names and equally distant domiciles. Crimson Spire LLC in a landlocked European microstate, Azure Current Holdings, registered in a bustling Asian financial hub. This wasn't mere embezzlement. This was a sophisticated, multi-layered operation, a labyrinth designed to swallow money whole and spit it out clean on the other side of the world. Leo, with his nascent business acumen and trusting nature, would never have conceived of such a complex mechanism, let alone executed it. The sheer scale, the intricate web of international transfers, confirmed your deepening suspicion. Your son was a pawn, a convenient scapegoat in a game far larger and deadlier than anyone in this room suspected. This wasn't about a few $1 million missing from a startup's coffers. This was about a pipeline, a global artery of illicit wealth. The tech startup was merely a spigot, its booming success a perfect cover for siphoning funds into a vast international money laundering operation. This wasn't just clearing Leo's name. This was dismantling a syndicate, a hydra with heads in every corner of the globe. A low murmur from the legal counsel broke your trance. Arthur, are you finding anything unusual? Their voice was measured, a careful probe. You turned your gaze from the screen, meeting their eyes. Unusual, you echoed, the word tasting like ash, is a gross understatement. This isn't a simple case of internal fraud. This is a meticulously crafted financial illusion, designed to make a fortune vanish and reappear elsewhere. Leo is merely the fall guy. Your voice, though calm, carried an unyielding resolve. The determination solidified in your chest, a hard, unyielding stone. As you spoke, the legal counsel's gaze flickered to a colleague across the table, a brief, almost imperceptible exchange. Then, their eyes returned to yours, a new glint of something unreadable in their depths. We appreciate your thoroughness, Arthur, but we must be cautious. These are delicate matters. Rushing to conclusions could have unforeseen ramifications. The words hung in the air, a silken thread of warning woven into the fabric of their professional concern. You felt it then, a prickle at the back of your neck. You were an unwanted observer, a threat to the carefully balanced scales. The ramifications were not just for the company, but for you. You were getting too close, pulling at threads that others desperately wanted to remain snarled. The game had just escalated, and you were now a player, whether you wished to be or not. Each syllable had been a hammer blow, driving a new nail into the coffin of your son's freedom. A transfer of another $3 million to a subsidiary account in the Cayman Islands. It bears all the hallmarks of a cleanup operation, a desperate attempt to move funds before the walls truly closed in. Your breath hitched. This wasn't merely damning, it was a fabrication too precise, too perfectly timed. It spoke of a puppeteer, pulling strings with malicious intent, twisting the narrative until Leo's innocence was a faint, forgotten whisper. This was no petty corporate pilfering. This was a siege. The meeting concluded with a sterile efficiency, leaving you alone amidst the polished chrome and silent screens. A tremor, subtle yet undeniable, passed through you. The path you walked was no longer just treacherous. It was actively being undermined beneath your very feet. You navigated the labyrinthine streets, the hum of the engine a dull counterpoint to the frantic rhythm in your chest. The familiar route home, usually a balm, felt like a journey into an unknown territory. The scent of aged paper and old leather, the comforting aroma of your sanctuary usually greeted you. Tonight, however, it was subtly altered. Your senses, honed by years of sifting through fraudulent ledgers for the slightest anomaly, immediately flagged it. You stepped inside, the familiar layout of your living room now imbued with an unsettling tension. The antique grandfather clock, usually a stoic sentinel, seemed to lean slightly, its ticking a slow, deliberate pronouncement of time you might not have. Your eyes, accustomed to the precise order of your life, swept across the room. Nothing was overtly disturbed. The stack of financial reports on the mahogany desk, your current obsession, remained neatly piled. The leather-bound volumes on the shelves stood in their usual impeccable rows. Yet, a prickle of unease crawled up your spine. You approached the desk, your hand hovering over the top file, the one detailing the convoluted shell companies. You remembered, with absolute certainty, how you had left it. The corner of the cover sheet perfectly aligned with the edge of the desk blotter. Now it was minutely, almost imperceptibly, skewed. A hair's breadth to the left. A shift so slight, most would dismiss it as your own absent-mindedness. But you were not most. You were Arthur Vance, and your life had been built on noticing the infinitesimal. No dust disturbed, no fingerprints visible to the naked eye. They were professionals, meticulous in their violation. They hadn't stolen anything, hadn't vandalized. They had been here, in your home, in your sanctuary. They had touched your work, breathed your air. The realization hit you with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't just about Leo anymore. This was about you. They knew you were digging. They knew you were close. The new evidence against Leo, the meticulous intrusion into your private domain, it was all part of the same cruel symphony. They were attempting to break your resolve, to show you the reach of their power, to warn you away from the precipice you now stood upon. They weren't just framing your son. They were invading your life, threatening your very existence. This wasn't a warning. It was a declaration of war. They had underestimated you. They had mistaken your quiet life for weakness. The game had just escalated, and you would play it to its bitter end. For Leo, for yourself. Your world narrowed to the flickering numbers, the endless lines of ledgers unfurling like an arcane scroll. You saw it, a faint tremor in the fabric of the financial data, a ripple in the calm surface of Novatech's legitimate transactions. Your fingers, calloused from years of such meticulous dissection, danced across the keyboard. Each click, each command, a deliberate stroke of a master painter. You burrowed deeper, past the superficial layers of standard accounting, into the raw, unvarnished data stream. The initial transfers, disguised as vendor payments and investment capital, flowed out of Novatech's accounts, a river of digits disappearing into a delta of shell companies. Divergence? You didn't turn. Certainty is a luxury of the uninformed, you murmured, your eyes fixed on a specific series of wire transfers. Their registrations were scattered across jurisdictions known for their opacity. A tiny island nation, a landlocked European principality, a South Asian financial hub. No physical presence, no discernible operations, merely conduits. The funds, once siphoned from Novatech, did not linger. They were not parked. They moved, a relentless current, from one shell to the next, then to another, a dizzying carousel of transfers designed to obscure origin and destination. Your unique forensic vision allowed you to perceive not just the what, but the how and the why of each transaction. It wasn't merely the amounts, but the timing, the specific routing protocols, the intermediary banks chosen, the slightly off-kilter reference codes that revealed the coordinated dance. These entities, you stated, your voice cutting through the boardroom's tension, they are not independent. They are connected. A spider's web, not a random scatter. You highlighted a cluster of transactions demonstrating how funds from different Novatech accounts converged into a single, then quickly funneled out of the system. A senior executive, his face etched with concern, leaned forward. And where do they go after Aegis? To a specific beneficiary? You shook your head slowly, a glint in your eye. Not to a single individual, not directly. That would be too crude. They vanish into the global financial ether, but not without leaving a signature. You paused, a frown deepening on your brow. The pattern of movement, it's too precise, too orchestrated. This isn't a lone wolf operating, this is a network. You began to cross-reference the unique financial fingerprints, the specific sequence of intermediary banks, the peculiar naming conventions for transaction IDs, the exact intervals between transfers. With a vast database of global financial fraud incidents you had meticulously curated over decades. Your fingers flew, a blur of motion, as you fed the anomalies into your custom-built algorithms. Not one, but 3 other companies, all high-growth tech startups in different sectors, had suffered strikingly similar multi-million-dollar embezzlements within the last 18 months. The initial siphoning, the use of identical shell company structures in the same jurisdictions, the same routing protocols, even the same peculiar digital timestamp discrepancies. It was all there, a ghost image of Novatech's current crisis. This is not an isolated incident, you announced, the words hanging heavy in the room. Novatech is merely the latest target. There is a syndicate at play, a highly sophisticated, disciplined organization operating above and beyond Novatech's internal mechanisms. The legal counsel gasped, a sharp intake of breath. A syndicate? Are you suggesting this is organized crime? You merely pointed to the screen, where the names of the other defrauded companies now glowed alongside Novatech's. Look at the commonalities. The same financial instruments used to obfuscate transfers, the same offshore banks acting as transient hosts. And look here, you zoomed in on a specific detail, a unique, almost imperceptible code embedded within the swift messages of all four frauds. This isn't a coincidence. This is a signature. It was a subtle, almost arrogant mark left by the orchestrators, a way for them to track their own illicit operations, or perhaps a deliberate, veiled taunt. It was the key, the thread that wove through the fabric of seemingly disparate crimes, binding them into a cohesive, terrifying whole. This code, you explained, your voice low and steady, it points to a central command, a controlling intelligence. They are not merely stealing, they are harvesting. Systematically, patiently. The implication hung in the air. Leo was not just framed for corporate fraud. He was a pawn in a much larger, more dangerous game, caught in the machinations of an unseen, powerful entity. The initial shock gave way to a hardened resolve. You had found the edges of the network. Now you needed to find its heart. Your gaze, however, is not on the panoramic vista, nor on the agitated faces flickering on the screen. Your focus is singular, riveted to the unique code. You have traced its insidious presence across all four incidents, a signature of the orchestrators, a thread of pure, unadulterated malice. The liaison, a contact introduced to you through a mutual acquaintance, has been instrumental in navigating the labyrinthine digital archives, a guide through the server farms and data lakes. You have come to trust their quiet competence, their seemingly tireless dedication to your cause. There is a pause, a beat of silence that stretches beyond the usual latency of a long-distance connection. The digital voices on the emergency call grow louder, more insistent, but you barely register their clamor. Your attention is fixed on the liaison's end of the line, waiting for the confirmation, the digital echo of your breakthrough. Arthur. The liaison's voice finally cuts through, a tremor beneath the calm facade. I'm encountering an anomaly. Your brow furrows. Elaborate. The specific data logs you've requested. They continue, the words slow, deliberate, each one a hammer blow. Those containing the unique code, they appear to have been purged. From all primary and redundant server arrays, a complete systematic wipe. The air in the boardroom thickens, suddenly heavy. The city lights outside seem to dim, their vibrancy leached away. Erased from existence. It's as if it was never there. The emergency call erupts into a cacophony of frustrated exclamations. The orchestrators, you realize with a sickening lurch, have not just destroyed evidence, they have severed your lifeline. The unique code, your golden thread, the very key you had just unearthed, is gone. Not just inaccessible, but systematically removed, scrubbed clean from the digital ether. This is no accident. And the liaison, your trusted guide through the digital labyrinth, who knew precisely what you were searching for, who facilitated your access. The pieces fall into place with a brutal, sickening click. They didn't help you find the key. They led you to it, only to ensure its immediate annihilation. The betrayal, sharp and bitter, stings your eyes. You have been played, your trust a tool in the hands of your adversary. The voices on the emergency call, previously a distant annoyance, now feel like a direct assault, their demands for explanation, for progress, for results, pressing down on you. But their urgency means nothing. The ground beneath your feet has vanished. The single thread that promised to unravel the entire conspiracy has been cut, cleanly, decisively. A sharp, intrusive buzz from your forgotten phone cuts through the haze of your shock. Judge cited flight risk and strength of prosecution's evidence. The words are a final, crushing blow. Leo, your son, remains caged. The phantom key to his freedom now dissolved into nothingness. You stand alone in the vast, silent boardroom, the city lights mocking your sudden insignificance. Can you truly do this? Can you save him when the very ground you stand on is crumbling? When every hand extended in aid might conceal a dagger? The phantom key, the lost evidence, the betrayal. They are not chains now, but accelerants. A cold, precise fire ignites within you, Arthur, burning away the despair, forging a new resolve. Leo, your son, remains caged, but the invisible bars around him now fuel a desperate, brilliant gambit. Your fingers, precise as a surgeon's, tap a sequence onto the secure comms device. The call connects, the voice on the other end a slick, practiced cordiality. Arthur, to what do we owe this? I believe it warrants immediate attention. The launch event is in hours. Precisely. You purr, a predator yourself now. And what better stage for revelation? I have acquired an unexpected insight into the true architects of Novatech's recent turbulence. An insight that, I assure you, will eclipse any product unveiling. You gamble, hinting at more than you possess, relying on their fear of exposure to draw them out. You know their arrogance, their belief in their own invincibility. They will come to control the narrative, to discredit you, unaware they walk into your meticulously constructed snare. The executive's voice softens, a dangerous purr. Very well, Arthur. You stand alone in the vast room, the city lights no longer mocking but witnessing. The chessboard is set. Hours later, you navigate the glittering throng of the Novatech launch. The air crackles with manufactured excitement, a symphony of hushed conversations, clinking glasses, and the rhythmic flash of cameras. The grand ballroom, adorned with digital projections of soaring market trends, feels less like a celebration and more like a meticulously crafted illusion. You move with a quiet purpose, your eyes scanning the faces, searching for the telltale glint of avarice, the subtle shift in posture that betrays a hidden agenda. You spot her then, standing near the main stage, a magnetic presence in the maelstrom. The executive, Evelyn Reed, surrounded by a deferential circle of board members and influential investors. Her smile is a practiced mask, her eyes, however, darting, assessing, searching for you. He is the viper in the garden, the spider at the heart of the web. Her gaze locks onto yours, a flicker of surprise, then a hardening. Arthur, punctual as always. I trust your insight is as compelling as you suggested. Her voice carries a thinly veiled threat, a challenge. More so, I believe. You reply, a faint smile touching your lips. It concerns not just Novatech's future, but its very foundation, and the foundations of several other ventures, globally. Before she can retort, you step onto the edge of the stage, an unexpected figure against the backdrop of corporate triumph. The low hum of conversations falters, a ripple of curiosity spreading through the room. The executive's eyes narrow, a dangerous glint within them. Ladies and gentlemen, you begin, your voice clear, resonant, cutting through the ambient noise. My apologies for this unscheduled interlude. But there are truths that demand daylight, even amidst the most dazzling displays. You hold up a small, unassuming USB drive. This contains not merely an insight, but a ledger. Her eyes dart to a burly security detail standing nearby. Arthur, this is highly inappropriate, she hisses, her voice losing its polished edge. You are disrupting a vital event. And you, Evelyn, you counter, your gaze unwavering, have disrupted lives. You have orchestrated a network of shell companies, ghost holdings, phantom assets, Silent partners. Names that speak to their true nature. These aren't merely tax shelters. They are conduits. Conduits for siphoning Novatech's capital, laundering funds through offshore accounts, all while framing an innocent man. A gasp sweeps through the room. The security detail moves, a hulking figure advancing towards the stage. You ignore him, your focus solely on the executive. The evidence is irrefutable, you continue, your voice gaining power. Through forensic accounting, I traced the initial seed capital for these phantom entities directly back to your personal accounts, disguised as investment dividends. Then, the flow outwards. The transfers to dummy corporations in Vanuatu, the Caymans, the BVI. The fabricated invoices, the doctored payrolls. Every transaction, every false signature points to a meticulously constructed illusion designed to enrich you and your associates at Novatech's expense. You project the contents of the USB drive onto the massive screens flanking the stage. A dizzying cascade of financial data, flowcharts, and annotated documents flashes before the stunned audience. Red lines connect the executive's personal finances to ghost holdings, then to a web of international accounts, ultimately returning to a hidden holding company that just happens to own a significant, undisclosed stake in Novatech itself. Leo, my son, was a convenient scapegoat, you declare, your voice ringing with a righteous fury. His access, his recent promotion, all leveraged to create the illusion of his culpability. But the true architect, the true beneficiary stands before you. You point a steady finger at Evelyn Reed, whose face has gone ashen, her practiced smile replaced by a mask of raw fury. This is baseless slander, she screams, her voice cracking. Security, get him off the stage. The security detail lunges, but you are ready. To every major financial regulator, every press outlet, every key investor present here tonight. Copies are being sent even now through encrypted channels, ensuring that even if this room falls silent, the truth will echo across the globe. The executive stares at you, her eyes blazing with a hatred so profound it could scorch the air. The security detail, momentarily disoriented, hesitates. The room erupts into a cacophony of shouts, questions, and the frantic clicking of cameras. You stand amidst the chaos, a solitary figure, having ignited a firestorm. Leo's name is cleared. The network is exposed. But the price, you realize, as the security detail recovers and lunges again, might still be paid in blood. Her eyes, twin embers of pure venom, bore into yours, promising a reckoning that now, mercifully, will never arrive. The security detail, caught between loyalty and the swift, decisive movements of the arriving officers, are disarmed with practiced ease. A flash of metal, a click of cuffs, and the woman who orchestrated a financial empire built on deceit is a captive, her fury impotent against the cold steel encircling her wrists. You watch, a quiet observer amidst the storm you've unleashed. The room, moments ago a pressure cooker of corporate power, now resembles a tableau of fallen idols. Other board members, their faces etched with a mosaic of fear, betrayal, and a desperate, clinging hope for plausible deniability, are quickly identified. The lead investigator, a man whose gaze holds the weary wisdom of countless shadows, offers a curt nod in your direction, a silent acknowledgement of your intricate dance with truth. His team moves with efficient grace, securing laptops, confiscating phones, their gloved hands systematically dismantling the last vestiges of a meticulously constructed lie. A faint tremor runs through your hands, not of fear, but of an exhaustion so profound it feels like the very marrow of your bones is settling. The adrenaline that had coursed through your veins for weeks, sharpening your mind, honing your focus, now recedes like a tide. You find a chair, a plush corporate throne that feels ironically out of place, and sink into its depths. The cacophony of shouts outside, the persistent chatter of radios, the muted clatter of evidence bags all form a distant, surreal symphony. You close your eyes for a brief moment. The image of a spreadsheet, rows of numbers forming an undeniable pattern of malfeasance, still vivid behind your lids. Each digit, each fraudulent transaction, a thread woven into the tapestry of your son's innocence. Your testimony will be crucial. We have enough for now, thanks to you. The digital trail is undeniable. He gestures towards the executive, now being led away, her head held high in a grotesque parody of defiance. He was a formidable opponent. You simply nod, your throat unexpectedly tight. Formidable, yes, but not invincible. No lie, however grandly conceived, could withstand the relentless pursuit of truth, especially when a son's freedom hung in the balance. Hours bleed into one another. You provide a detailed account, walking the investigators through the labyrinthine shell companies, the phantom transactions, the international money laundering schemes. Each explanation feels like a final exorcism, expelling the ghosts of deception from your mind. The world outside is a blinding, chaotic maelstrom of flashing cameras and shouting voices. Reporters, a ravenous pack, surge forward, their questions a barrage of accusations and speculation. Mr. Vance, is it true Novatech is implicated in a global fraud ring? What about the CEO? Where is he? Did you bring down the company? You push through the throng, shielding your face, the questions a dull hum against the ringing in your ears. A waiting vehicle, arranged by the investigators, offers a temporary sanctuary. Your phone vibrates, a jarring interruption. It's the lead investigator. Arthur, his voice usually so clipped, holds a note of quiet triumph. Leo Vance has been fully exonerated. All charges dropped. He's free. We're arranging his release now. The words hit you like a physical wave. Exonerated. Free. The two words you've chased through every ledger, every coded message, every sleepless night. A gasp escapes your lips, ragged and raw. A profound, aching relief, so intense it feels like grief, washes over you, loosening the rigid knot that had gripped your chest for months. The weight, the crushing burden of your son's wrongful imprisonment lifts, leaving you momentarily breathless. You arrange to meet him at a quiet, nondescript location, far from the media circus. The drive there is a blur, your mind racing, replaying moments, anticipating the embrace. When you finally see him, standing under the dim glow of a street lamp, he looks thinner, his shoulders a little stooped, but his eyes, when they meet yours, hold a light you feared might have been extinguished forever. Leo. You breathe, his name a prayer. He doesn't speak, just closes the distance between you, pulling you into a hug that is both fierce and fragile. You feel the tremor in his body, mirroring your own. You really did it. You cling to him, the rough fabric of his jacket a tangible comfort. I told you, son. I told you I'd clear your name. The words are a promise fulfilled, a vow honored. The chasm that had opened between you, forged by unspoken resentments and the demands of your reclusive life, begins to close, bridged by the harrowing journey you've both endured. Later, in the quiet of a borrowed apartment, you watch the news. Novatech, once a titan, is now a crumbling edifice. Its stock plummets, its reputation shattered. Legal proceedings against the executive and her conspirators are swift and merciless, the evidence irrefutable. But as the talking heads dissect the scandal, a different unease settles in your gut. The network. The true scale of the syndicate you glimpsed through the layers of financial obfuscation. This wasn't just corporate fraud. It was a sophisticated global operation. The executive was a powerful piece, yes, but a piece nonetheless. The world has changed, and you, Arthur Vance, the reclusive accountant, have irrevocably changed with it. The exposure of such a vast network, even a part of it, invites a reciprocal attention. The game, you realize, is far from over. This victory, while profound, is merely the end of one battle, and the prelude to another, more dangerous engagement. The rough fabric of his jacket, the scent of his skin. A world of relief compressed into that single desperate embrace. Your son, Leo, finally free. The shadow of a crime he did not commit lifted. The chasm that had opened between you, forged by unspoken resentments and the demands of your reclusive life, begins to close, bridging the years with the silent language of shared peril and profound love. You told him you would clear his name, and the promise, once a heavy stone in your gut, now floats, light as a feather, in the vast expanse of your chest. Hours later, the lingering tremor in your hands has subsided, replaced by a dull ache in your temples. The air, usually thick with the hushed hum of power and ambition, now crackles with the distant voices of authority figures. The detective, his face etched with a weariness that mirrors your own, sits opposite you at the polished mahogany table, a muted phone pressed to his ear. The receiver, a black rectangle of plastic and circuits, whispers secrets of global pursuit and finality. Your gaze drifts across the room, past the ergonomic chairs and the sleek, dark screens that once displayed intricate financial models. Now they are inert, reflecting only the distant glow of the metropolis. Each pane of glass, each polished surface, holds a ghost of the frantic hours spent here, dissecting ledgers, tracing digital breadcrumbs, following the scent of illicit wealth. The detective clears his throat, his voice low, a gravelly murmur against the hum of the city. They got him, the one calling himself the architect. Deep in a secluded villa on the Amalfi Coast. A joint operation, international warrants. The data you provided, Arthur, was precise, irrefutable. A breath you didn't realize you were holding escapes your lungs. The words hang in the air, solid and real. They got him. The architect of ruin, the spider at the center of the web of shell companies and laundered millions, is no longer a phantom. This is the truth, stark and unyielding. The network, a hydra-headed beast, has lost its head. Significant portions of its insidious tendrils are now exposed, their illicit operations crumbling under the weight of your relentless scrutiny. You nod slowly, the motion a quiet acknowledgement of the immense effort, the sleepless nights, the calculated risks. The tension, which had been a constant companion, a taut string vibrating beneath your skin, begins to slacken. But the immediate suffocating pressure lifts. And the funds, you ask, your voice a little hoarse, a slight tremor still present. Always the numbers. Your mind, even now, seeks the balance. A significant portion recovered, the detective confirms, a faint relief in his eyes. Enough to stabilize the startup, to prevent widespread collapse. The investors will see some return. The damage contained, largely thanks to your early intervention. Early intervention. You remember the first suspicious ledger, the anomaly that tugged at your mind, the instinct that screamed something was wrong. You remember Leo's desperate call, the fear in his voice, the raw vulnerability that pierced your carefully constructed solitude. This journey began with a son in peril, and it ends with a son redeemed. Your gaze meets his, and in his eyes, you see not just gratitude, but a renewed respect, a rekindled connection that feels more precious than any recovered fortune. The bridge is not just built, it is fortified, strong enough to bear the weight of years, of future joys and sorrows. The world outside the penthouse boardroom continues its relentless spin, but your world has shifted on its axis. The quiet hum of numbers, the intricate dance of ledgers, no longer feels like a burden, but a purpose, sharpened by the crucible of this ordeal. Perhaps there are other networks, other architects of ruin. Perhaps your unique vision, your relentless pursuit of truth through numbers can still serve. Not as a forced obligation, but as a chosen path. You might consult on your own terms, selecting the battles that truly matter. Or perhaps you will simply enjoy a retirement that is no longer defined by solitude, but by connection, by the quiet joy of a mended relationship, the vibrant tapestry of a life re-engaged. The emergency call has ended. A new beginning, uncertain yet promising, stretches before you, illuminated by the city's tireless glow.